What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, your reality is shifting? That everything you thought was permanent, your perceptions, your emotions, even the way time moves around you, is beginning to dissolve. You felt it, haven't you? Things don't feel the same. The world around you is changing in ways that are impossible to explain with logic alone. People seem different. Events unfold in a way that feels surreal, almost dreamlike. And deep down, a voice inside you is whispering something is happening. This isn't your imagination. This isn't a coincidence. This is the sign that you are moving beyond the limitations of the third-dimensional world and stepping into the frequency of the fifth dimension. But here's the thing: most people will never realize this. They will continue living in the illusion, locked in the patterns of fear, scarcity, and control. But you are here because you've already started to awaken. The first sign is the complete collapse of linear time. Have you noticed that time doesn't feel real anymore? Some days feel like they last forever, while others disappear in an instant. You might look at the clock and see hours have passed without you realizing it, or you might experience déjà vu so intensely that it feels like you're living the same moment twice. This is because in the fifth dimension, time is no longer fixed. It bends, expands, and contracts based on vibration. The higher your frequency, the less you are bound by time. This is why when you are in a state of joy, presence, and flow, time seems to disappear completely. But when you are stuck in fear or resistance, time feels heavy, slow, almost unbearable. The third dimension operates on rigid timelines, but in the fifth dimension, everything is happening now. Past, present, and future are all connected. You start seeing synchronicities everywhere. Events align perfectly, and manifestations happen almost instantly. But here's where it gets even stranger. People around you won't experience time the same way you do. You'll notice that while you feel like you're living in an accelerated, higher frequency reality, others seem stuck in repetitive loops. They'll say things like time is flying by or everything feels chaotic, but they won't understand why. Have you noticed how many people seem lost, disconnected, and overwhelmed lately? That's because as the collective shifts, those who are still holding onto the old paradigm are experiencing time distortion as disorientation, while those who are ascending experience it as freedom.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Your external reality is no longer solid. Have you felt like life is becoming more dreamlike? Things that once felt permanent now seem fluid, malleable, almost like they are responding to your thoughts in real time. You think of someone, and they text you. You set an intention, and the exact thing you need appears within hours. You feel a shift in your energy, and suddenly people, places, and opportunities rearrange themselves around you. This is because in the fifth dimension, reality is no longer something you passively experience, it's something you actively create. Think about it. How many times in the past few months have you felt like your thoughts, emotions, and energy were directly influencing the world around you? Not in some vague, metaphorical way, but in an immediate, undeniable way. This is one of the most powerful confirmations that you are shifting. But here's where most people get stuck. They don't trust this new reality. They still operate from the old paradigm of separation, believing that reality is something outside of them. And because of that, they keep themselves anchored in the illusion of limitation. But the moment you fully embrace that your reality is responding to your frequency, everything changes. You stop trying to force things. You stop chasing. You stop operating from fear. Instead, you move through life with a deep sense of trust, knowing that everything is aligning in your favor. And when you reach this level of awareness, you experience the complete breakdown of old identities. Who you thought you were is dissolving. The labels, the roles, the beliefs that defined you no longer feel real. The things that once gave you a sense of purpose, career, relationships, even your own ambitions might suddenly feel empty, like they belong to someone else. And this can be terrifying because the ego fears change. It wants to hold on to the familiar, even if the familiar is no longer serving you. But in the fifth dimension, identity is no longer something fixed. You are not one thing. You are infinite. You are fluid. You are whatever your highest vibration allows you to be. This is why so many people going through this shift experience intense emotional purges. One day you feel completely at peace, and the next you are overwhelmed by emotions you can't explain. This is because everything that is not in alignment with your highest self is being stripped away. Old wounds, unresolved fears, past life traumas, they are all rising to the surface, not to break you, but to be released. Have you felt this? Have you had moments where emotions come out of nowhere, where you feel like you are grieving something you can't even name? This is the process of energetic purification. And the more you surrender to it, the lighter you become. Once you let go of the false self, you start receiving downloads of higher knowledge. Your intuition is becoming undeniable. You know things before they happen. You feel people's energy before they even speak. You receive insights that seem to come out of nowhere, yet they turn out to be true. This is because in the fifth dimension, you are no longer relying on logic alone, you are operating from direct energetic perception. Your heart, your gut, your entire being is tuned into a higher frequency of intelligence. And because of this, you no longer need to seek answers outside of yourself. You are the answer. But most people don't trust this. They second-guess themselves. They wait for validation. They dismiss their inner knowing as imagination. But the moment you fully trust your intuition, your reality shifts at an even faster rate. You start making decisions effortlessly. You stop entertaining things that drain your energy. You move through life with clarity, confidence, and a deep inner peace, because you are no longer searching for truth, you are living it. This becomes your default state. You no longer feel separate from anything or anyone. You see yourself in others. You feel the energy of nature, of the universe, of life itself flowing through you. Love is no longer something you seek, it is something you are. And in this state, fear disappears, doubt disappears, struggle disappears, because you finally remember what you have always known: you are not just in the universe, you are the universe, experiencing itself in human form. Everything has been leading to this moment. You felt the shift happening, the dissolving of time, the breakdown of everything that once felt stable, the undeniable pull towards something greater. But now the question is, how do you stay here? How do you fully anchor yourself in the fifth dimension without slipping back into the old patterns of fear, doubt, and limitation? Because here's the truth: even though you are ascending, the third dimensional world hasn't disappeared. It still exists, and people still live in it. You will still interact with it. But the difference is that you are no longer bound by it. And once you understand this, once you realize that the fifth dimension is not a place but a state of being, you will never return to the old reality again. The first thing you must master is your energetic stability. In the fifth dimension, your energy is everything. It is the blueprint that creates your external reality. This is why when you are in a high vibrational state, everything flows effortlessly, opportunities appear, synchronicities increase, and life feels like a constant state of alignment. But the moment you let lower vibrations take control, fear, stress, external distractions, you start slipping back into the density of the third dimension. Have you noticed how quickly your reality shifts based on your internal state? One moment, everything is clear and you feel unstoppable. The next, a single negative thought spirals into a series of events that seem to drag you back into old struggles. This is not coincidence. This is the direct effect of vibrational frequency. The key is no longer allowing external circumstances to dictate your energy. Most people react to their environment. They feel good when things are going well and feel bad when things seem difficult. But in the fifth dimension, this is reversed. Your internal state dictates what happens externally. This means learning to hold your vibration no matter what is happening around you. It means choosing peace even when chaos surrounds you. It means trusting in the unseen even when the physical world gives you every reason to doubt. The moment you master this, you become truly untouchable. Then comes the second shift: detachment from the old paradigm. The third dimensional world is built on control, fear, and survival. It operates through scarcity, competition, and the illusion of separation. But the fifth dimension is the exact opposite. It is based on trust, flow, and oneness. And this is why so many people struggle during this transition. They try to live in the fifth dimension while still holding on to third-dimensional beliefs. They still try to control things, still chase external validation, still attach their worth to money, achievement, or other people's opinions. But you cannot stay in the fifth dimension while playing by the rules of the third. You have to let go of the old systems of thought, the old definitions of success, the old ways of seeking security. You have to trust that in this higher frequency, everything you need will come to you effortlessly, not through force, but through alignment. This is why people who are truly anchored in the fifth dimension no longer chase anything. They do not hustle, they do not struggle, they do not operate from desperation. They attract, they align, they allow, and everything flows to them as a result. And then comes the final shift: full embodiment of your highest self. This is where everything changes, because at this point you are no longer trying to ascend. You are no longer seeking answers. You have become the answer. You have merged with the version of yourself that has always existed beyond the limitations of the physical world. You are no longer waiting for some external proof, for some final confirmation that you have arrived. You know who you are, and because of that, reality bends around you. You speak, and the universe responds. You set an intention, and the path unfolds instantly. You move with complete certainty, not because you have control, but because you no longer need control. You have surrendered to the flow of the universe, and in doing so, you have become limitless. And from this place, nothing can touch you. Fear becomes a distant memory. Doubt no longer exists. The struggles that once consumed you now feel like dreams from a past life. Because in this state, you are no longer reacting to life, you are creating it, moment by moment, with every thought, every emotion, every frequency you emit. And once you reach this level, you will never go back, because there is nothing left to go back to. The old reality is no longer real to you. The only thing that exists is this absolute presence, infinite possibility, and the knowing that you are the universe itself, experiencing life through human form. Most people will never break free, not because they aren't capable, not because they aren't worthy, but because they are too attached to the illusion. They say they want to ascend, they say they want freedom, peace, and infinite abundance, but deep down, they are still clinging to fear, still addicted to struggle, still identifying with the very limitations they claim to want to escape. And this is why so many never make it. Because the shift to the fifth dimension is not something that happens to you, it is something you become. It is not a reward, not something given to a chosen few. It is a state of being, and those who are not willing to release everything that is not in alignment with it will unconsciously hold themselves back. The truth is, most people are afraid of their own power. They are afraid of what it means to fully step into their infinite nature. They are afraid to let go of the familiar, even if the familiar is suffering. And so they remain stuck, repeating the same cycles, waiting for something outside of them to change, not realizing that the only thing keeping them where they are is themselves. And this is why the first thing you must transcend is the addiction to struggle. The third-dimensional world has conditioned people to believe that everything must be earned through effort, that success comes from suffering, that nothing of value comes easily. But this is a program. A belief system designed to keep people trapped in limitation. Because in the fifth dimension, nothing is achieved through force, it is achieved through alignment. Struggle is not a prerequisite for growth. Pain is not necessary for evolution. But people hold on to these beliefs because without struggle, without external validation, without the constant fight to prove themselves, they don't know who they are. Their identity is built on hardship, and so even when they are given the opportunity to step into ease, they resist it. They sabotage themselves. They create problems where none exist. Because deep down they have been programmed to believe that life is supposed to be difficult. But the moment you release this belief, everything changes. You start to realize that the universe has never required you to suffer. That all the things you've been chasing, peace, abundance, love, were never meant to be earned. They were always meant to be allowed. This is why those who truly ascend move through life with effortless grace. They are not lucky. They are not special. They have simply stopped resisting what was always available to them. Then comes the second reason most people never reach the fifth dimension: attachment to the external world. The biggest trap of the third dimension is the belief that reality is something outside of you, something that happens to you. This is why people live in fear. They believe they are at the mercy of circumstances, of governments, of economies, of other people's opinions. They give their power away without even realizing it. But in the fifth dimension, there is no separation between you and reality. Your external world is just a reflection of your internal state. And once you truly understand this, you stop reacting. You stop fearing. You stop giving energy to things that do not align with your highest frequency. You become untouchable, not because the world changes, but because you change. But most people never reach this level because they are still plugged into the illusion. They are still emotionally invested in the chaos, still triggered by the news, still arguing, still judging, still trying to control things that were never meant to be controlled. And as long as they do this, they will remain stuck. Because in the fifth dimension, the only thing that exists is now. Presence, alignment, flow. Those who are still holding on to attachment, still trying to force reality instead of allowing it, will continue looping in the same karmic cycles, never realizing that the door to freedom was always open. They were just too busy looking in the wrong direction. And then comes the final reason, the one that keeps more people trapped than anything else: fear of their own power. The truth is, most people are not afraid of failure. They are afraid of what would happen if they actually succeeded. They are afraid of what it would mean to fully embody their highest self, to fully step into their limitless nature, to fully realize that they were never small, never helpless, never anything less than infinite. Because the moment they do, there are no more excuses, no more distractions, no more blaming circumstances, no more waiting for something outside of them to change. They would have to take full responsibility for their reality. And this terrifies people, because they have been taught to believe in limitation for so long that the idea of total freedom feels overwhelming. But here's the thing, whether they accept it or not, the shift is happening. The energy of the planet is rising. The old structures are collapsing. The illusion is breaking. The only question is, will they allow themselves to rise with it? Or will they cling to the old world, the old fears, the old limitations, until there is nothing left to hold on to? Because the truth is, the fifth dimension is not coming in the future. It is already here. The only thing left to decide is, are you ready to step into it? There comes a moment when everything changes, and not in a way the mind can predict. It's not a single event, not a sudden explosion of enlightenment, not some grand cosmic revelation. It happens in the smallest of moments, in the space between thoughts, in the way you wake up one morning and realize that the things that used to control you no longer have power. Fear feels distant, almost foreign. The opinions of others dissolve into background noise. The urgency, the endless chase, the constant need to get somewhere disappears. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understand there is nowhere to get to. Everything you were looking for was always here. And once you see this, once you feel it, there is no going back. Reality bends in ways you never thought possible. Time stretches and contracts, synchronicities accelerate, manifestations happen so quickly that it almost feels like a game. People react differently to you not because they changed, but because your energy is no longer the same. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, people feel something. Some are drawn to you, inexplicably comforted by your presence. Others become uncomfortable, agitated, as if your very existence is disrupting their illusion. And in a way, it is. Because when you fully awaken, you are no longer a participant in the dream. You become the mirror that forces everyone around you to see themselves clearly. But this shift is not just about perception. It alters the very fabric of your existence. The things that once required effort now happen effortlessly. The people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your highest frequency flow into your life without struggle. The things that are not meant for you fall away, sometimes suddenly, sometimes in ways that make no logical sense. And this is where most people resist, because the human mind fears the unknown. It wants to hold on to the familiar, even if the familiar is no longer in alignment. But in this new reality, holding on is no longer an option. Everything that is not in resonance with your highest vibration will be stripped away. Relationships, careers, identities, you will watch them dissolve, not as a punishment, but as a recalibration. Because in the fifth dimension, only what is true can remain. And this is where most people struggle. They want the expansion, but they fear the loss. They want to ascend, but they are still clinging to the ground. But the ones who fully awaken, the ones who truly let go, realize that nothing was ever lost, that everything that falls away was never them to begin with. And when this realization settles in, something even more profound happens. You stop seeking. The endless questions, the need for answers, the constant striving to figure things out, it all fades. Not because you found all the answers, but because you no longer need them. You become comfortable in the unknown, at peace with uncertainty, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And in this space, something magical occurs. Life starts speaking to you in ways it never did before. The wind, the trees, the rhythm of existence itself, it all communicates with you, not through words, but through energy. You start receiving messages, not as thoughts, but as knowing. You no longer need validation, no longer need signs, no longer need to prove anything. Because you are the sign. You are the proof. You are the very thing you were searching for. And in this realization, life becomes effortless. Not because challenges disappear, but because you no longer resist them. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. You move through the world with a kind of quiet power, a presence that cannot be explained but can always be felt. People sense it, even if they don't understand it. Some will be drawn to you, others will reject you, but none will be able to ignore you. And this is the final shift when you no longer try to awaken others, no longer need to convince anyone of anything. You simply exist in your truth, knowing that your energy alone is enough. Everything feels different, but the world around you looks the same. People are still trapped in their routines, still running in circles, still caught in the illusion of control. You see it so clearly now, the way they chase things that don't matter, the way they believe their happiness depends on something out there, the way they live in a constant state of waiting. Waiting for the weekend, waiting for the right relationship, waiting for more money, waiting for some future moment when life will finally feel complete. But you are no longer waiting. Time no longer waiting. Time no longer holds you hostage. The rules they play by don't apply to you anymore. And yet you are still here, in a world that no longer feels real, surrounded by people who don't see what you see. This is where most people struggle after awakening, not with their own transformation, but with the realization that the collective is still asleep. The conversations feel empty. The news feels like a bad joke. The entire system feels like a game designed to keep people distracted. You wonder how you ever believed in it, how you ever got caught up in the fear, the urgency, the endless striving for things that never really mattered. But now that you see through it, how do you live in it? How do you function in a world that feels like a dream you've already woken up from? The first thing to understand is that you are not here to escape this world, you are here to transcend it. Many people, after awakening, try to isolate themselves. They withdraw from society, from relationships, from anything that feels too low vibrational. But avoidance is not mastery. The goal is not to run from the third dimension, but to exist within it while no longer being controlled by it. This means learning how to interact with the world without absorbing its chaos, how to engage with people without losing yourself in their illusions, how to move through this reality with ease while knowing, deep down, that you are no longer bound by it. The moment you stop resisting it, the struggle disappears. You start to see everything as part of the process, even the things that once frustrated you. The traffic, the noise, the conflicts, the misunderstandings, it all becomes background noise, like a movie playing that you are no longer emotionally invested in. You can observe it, interact with it, even play along when necessary, but it no longer defines your experience. And when you reach this level of detachment, something unexpected happens. Instead of feeling disconnected from the world, you feel more connected than ever. Not to the illusion, but to the essence of life itself. You start to see through people's words and actions, past their conditioning, past their fears, past the walls they've built around themselves. You see them as they truly are fragments of the same infinite consciousness, each on their own path, each waking up in their own time. And this is where the second shift happens. You stop trying to wake people up. In the beginning, it's tempting. You want to shake people, tell them everything you've realized, make them see what you see. But you quickly learn that truth cannot be forced. People do not awaken because you tell them to. They awaken when they are ready. And so, you stop explaining, stop trying to convince, stop pouring your energy into those who are not yet open to receiving it. Instead, you become the living example. You embody the frequency of the fifth dimension so fully that your very presence becomes the activation. People start to notice something different about you, even if they can't explain it. They feel lighter in your presence. They find themselves opening up to you in ways they never have before. They start questioning things they never questioned before. Not because you told them to, but because your energy showed them what was possible. And this is the real way transformation happens, not through words, but through vibration. The more you embody your truth, the more people around you will begin to shift, not because you pushed them, but because your energy created the space for them to remember who they are. And then comes the final realization: you were never meant to fit into this world, because you came here to create a new one. The reason everything feels different, the reason the old systems no longer resonate, the reason you feel like an observer in a world that no longer makes sense, is because you have outgrown the old paradigm. And now, instead of trying to adjust to a reality that no longer aligns with you, you start building the reality that does. This is where life becomes effortless. You no longer worry about what will happen, because you know that your frequency is the only thing that determines your experience. You no longer chase opportunities, because you know that what is meant for you will always align at the perfect time. You no longer seek external validation, because you know that everything you need is already within you. And in this state, life flows in ways that defy logic. You meet the right people at the right time. You receive insights exactly when you need them. The universe rearranges itself around your energy because you are no longer fighting against it, you are moving with it. And this is the ultimate shift. You are no longer just living in this reality. You are creating it moment by moment, breath by breath, in complete harmony with the infinite intelligence of the universe itself.